Hi, this is Larry Jordan. Welcome to another edition of HDFilmTools.com. Today we're going to be looking at the Red Rock Micro M2 Cinema Lens Adapter. I'm here with my good friend, filmmaker Stefan Glidden, who's going to give us an overview of the product. Stefan, thanks for being with us. How long have you been using the Red Rock adapter?
I've been using this for about a year now.
And what kind of shoots do you use it on?
Well, I'm a director, and I use this for my music videos. I use this for anything where I'm using studio lighting, where I'm, getting set up.
And what brought you to it? I've heard a lot of good things about it. What does it do?
Well, I heard about it because I knew that I wanted my projects to look a lot better than they did. Video looked flat. I was using, the HVX or the Sonys, for music videos, and there was something missing. So I started investigating, and I started, looking up, what the big issue was. Why can't I get, what I want out of just a video camera? And the thing that kept coming up was depth of field. That if I wanted the quality of image that I was going for, I needed to use 35mm lenses in front of the camera. And the product that I started hearing a lot about and started getting really great reviews was the M2. So I saw some clips on it, and for what it did and the price and just the easy using it, I went with the M2, and I wouldn't go any other way. It really makes a difference between, people look at it and they say, oh, you shot that on a video camera, versus, geez, that looks really, really good.
Why can't you get that depth of field out of a stationary video lens?
Well, there's a couple factors involved with that, but probably the biggest one is the size of the chip in the video camera, because the cost of making the chips are so expensive. Chip is much, much smaller than the size of a frame of 35mm film, and that's the equivalent of shooting at an extremely high aperture. The higher your aperture, the more depth of field you have, the wider range of acceptable focus there's going to be. And so when you're shooting on such a small chip, it's like you're shooting at like an f/64. Everything's going to be in focus. So what the Red Rock does is, by letting you use 35mm lenses in front of your camera, you're combining the focal length of the camera's lens with the focal length of the 35mm lens, and the longer the focal length, the shorter the depth of field.
Okay, we've got an HVX 200 set up with the Red Rock adapter. Walk us through the pieces. Tell us what everything is.
Well, from front to back, this here's just a Canon 35mm FD lens. This is what they used to use on Canon still cameras.
Sure.
And you've got this right here, this little ring, that's the mount. And they come in different mounts. You can get a Canon, you can get Nikon. They have the Canon EOS for the newer lenses, all the way up to PL mounts.
Aeroflex PL mounts.
Yep, you can do Aeroflex. I think Zeiss works on that. The Panavision has its own proprietary mount. But yeah, you can do professional lenses on this thing, and that makes a huge difference.
Great.
And then this is the actual adapter. In here is the CineScreen, which the image is focused on. It houses the battery as well, because the screen spins. Otherwise, you'd see the grain on it. So there's a battery that keeps it at a constant speed. And then this piece right here, this doesn't come with the regular kit. This is the Micro X, the flip adapter. The way the optics work is that when the light comes in, it flips the image. And so if you don't have this piece, your image is upside down. So you'd either need to have a camera that can flip, or a monitor that can flip, or some way that you can see the image
Do
right
it in
side up.
post-production.
Well, in post, yeah, but when you're shooting, you
don't want to be looking at an upside-down
yeah,
image.
you need to see it. You need to see it the right way. So Red Rock came out with this awesome tool. It's the Micro X flip adapter, and that takes that step out of post-production, and it takes that step out of your shoot.
Very cool.
Then we have the HD Achromat, which is another sort of like magnifying lens that goes on the camera, and then some of the hard mount, and then the rest is the HVX. And with the original Red Rock package, it comes with the plate and the mount, and then the rails to mount the Red Rock on.
Okay, so tell me some of the things that I might need to be aware of when shooting with the Red Rock adapter.
Well, the number one thing is the back focus. You need to make sure that your back focus is set properly, and that whoever's operating the camera, whoever's around the camera, doesn't bump it, because the slightest little nudge bumps it off, and you're going to have blurry footage. So you've got to make sure that you know where your back focus is, and that you're not screwing with it.
Right, but if your back focus is off, it'll be reflected if you have an external monitor, correct?
Yeah, you can see, and that's one of the big things, is you need to use an external monitor in order to get focus, but also to make sure that your getting what you want, because you can, you can see it in the little camera monitor, but it really pays to get something bigger.
And you have the Marshall.
I have a Marshall 7-inch HD monitor.
Works well.
Fantastic.
Oh, great. Affordable. Somewhat.
Kind of.
What about vignetting?
Well, that's another issue when you need to make sure that your zoom is set properly so that you're not getting any of the shadows from the screen or any part of the cine screen. And one really helpful thing is that on the HVX, it has numbers. It has a number value for your zoom and a number value for your focus. And it helps, like before the Micro X, my numbers were 1776, so it was easy to always remember. And right now I think it's 8585. And so I just remember those numbers and I look at it and I go, yeah, I'm right. I know right where I am.
Great. Okay, so I understand you also have to watch out for a little bit of light loss through the adapter.
Mm-hmm. You've got all this machinery between your image and your camera, so you do lose some light. When you're shooting inside, you really need to have, unless you're in direct sunlight, you've got to have some lighting.
That's pretty normal for making a film.
Well, yeah.
anyway,
I mean, if you were using a bigger camera, there's also, if you're shooting film, you're going to need more light. So it really, it makes your production value go up, but that also means that you do need a bit more production in it. You've got to have lights. You've got to do it a little bit more real.
Right. Okay, we're going to take a break and we'll come back with part 2, where Stefan's going to show us how to assemble, calibrate, and give us an example of what the Red Rock can do.